Welcome back, podcast community. My name is Cam King. This is Three Questions Podcast, episode number 57. Been a little bit of a hiatus. Last few episodes came out, I think, in September and October. I was away for a little while for work, and today I have a new contact and a new friend of mine, Justin Breen, out of Chicago, here to talk about Visionaries, business, and beyond. Justin, how are you?
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for serving our country with honor. Very grateful for you.
Yeah, definitely. I keep my business and this business, especially the podcast, is really just a platform now for me to continue to work with entrepreneurs in the advertising, marketing, PR worlds and sort of share their messages. I learn a lot from these podcasts with the people that I have on.
Yep.
I know you've haven't listened to any episodes, but hopefully you will. This is really about a PR piece for you to share your knowledge and to extend other people, hopefully bring other people into your fold. And you were telling me a little bit about your work here. And the format of this is very simple. Three questions podcast. We just came up with three questions. I'm going to ask you them.
Yep.
You'll have 5 minutes to sort of explain or pontificate however you want. I'll let you know. I'll just hold up fingers and let you know, hey, you're at 4 minutes, kind of wrap it up.
I won't be looking at the screen. Yeah. Just tell me when to stop talking.
Yeah, no worries. But I want you to get across your message in case there are people
Okay.
that do want to connect with you in any sort of
Okay.
way. So
Yep.
if that's all right with you,
Oh, yeah.
let's hop right into question number one. And question number one, you explained that you work with visionaries on a consistent basis, very successful millionaires, multimillionaires who you consider to be visionaries. But I would love to know, why are visionaries so important and what exactly does that mean?
Well, my day consists of hanging out with my family, wife, who's a pediatrician, and then COO of our second company, which is connecting visionaries to serve humanity. It's essentially LinkedIn for visionaries, platform for visionaries. And then our two sons, who are 11 and 9, and they're both visionaries, just pure leaders, unemployable. They're unemployable. If they ever have a job, I'll be amazed. They'll be running the companies I helped start or whatever. Or just talking to the world's top visionaries, or those who will do whatever it takes to become those folks. And then my brain turns all of that into patterns. Most of the people I talk to are ADD, diagnosed or undiagnosed. They're all over the place. It's not a disorder. It's a sign of genius mislabeled by humans. And then I can hear all the rambling and then turn it into a pattern. So, you asked about visionaries, why it's so important. I mean, everything that's here in our world and even out of the world was created by a visionary. Everything, or entrepreneurship. Like if you think about anything, it was created by an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur who hired someone who created it and then they employed them. I mean, and and then visionaries, they change the world. I don't really understand business owner, linear, human, their world thinking. I just like to connect the world people to the world thinkers. And so business owners and consultants, humans, they care about revenue, employee count, office space, whatever, that's their world thinking. Then a visionary cares about purpose, spending time with loved ones, true connectivity, and they're changing the world. So by connecting the world thinkers and doers to the world thinkers and doers, I help everyone else, and then I spend time with my family, which is what I really want to do.
I think that's super admirable. I think anybody that puts their family first ahead of business is probably a rarity in today's world.
Not in my world. That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you're turning that around, because for a long time, a lot of entrepreneurs and consultants and just CEOs that I've worked with, they've always thought the other thing. Hey, if I just grind on my business and do this, I'll get to
Yep.
some ethereal plane where then I'll
Yep.
be able to spend all the time with my family. And that's not
Yep.
really what it is. So it's very refreshing to hear you say that.
Oh, well,
Um,
thank you. Refreshing, right? Refreshing. I like words like that. Refreshing to put your family first. Think about that. Like it's completely illogical. So the second book, very grateful. Second book I wrote, it's called Epic Life. And then Dr. Peter Diamandis is one of the top visionaries on the planet. He wrote the foreword. I'm very grateful. But it's how to build collaborative global companies while putting your loved ones first. So like, oh, here's the answer. Here's the answer. All I do is talk to visionaries and talk to one to two of them every week that have let entrepreneur visionary life destroy their family life or prevented them from having a family. So I'm like, well, you don't have to do that. So here's the pattern of why people are doing that, and then here's the pattern solution of how not to do that. So that's literally why I wrote the book. So
Yeah, I see those two books behind you, Epic Business and Epic Life. Are those the only two books that you've written?
I'm trying to think about that. I wonder if I've been a part of other collaboration books. Those are the only two that I've written myself. There'll be a third one uh, written in probably 2024 after our big in-person event for the Brepic Network Company. That one will be more about my wife because she's transitioning out of pediatrics to be the COO of the company, and she's a machine in a good way with like harmony and relationships, and she's an incredible COO. So her story I think is more relatable to all of humankind. Because she's a doctor phasing out of that to become part of this world. The way I communicate, it doesn't really resonate with most people. I'm very aware of that and I'm okay with that. The way my wife communicates, it resonates with everyone, at least anyone with a brain who can understand it. But really excited to write that after our in-person event because I want to see how well it goes, and then I'll put some of those experiences into the book as well.
I love that. I think that's a good wrap on our first question. Let's hop into number two because I've heard you say visionaries now about a dozen times, and
Yeah.
it's not a word that I hear in my professional world per se, right? Where you can think outside the box, but if you go too far outside the box, you can be ostracized pretty quick. And
Yeah.
I have seen that in the professional world previously, but I want to hear exactly from you what separates a visionary from
Oh,
a human being. That's my next big question for you.
great. So there are four things that separate visionaries from humans, consultants, business owners, whatever. I'd venture to say our firm's partner with maybe 1 out of 1,000 people, 1 out of 1,000 humans. It's probably less than that, but it's easier to say 1 out of 1,000. And then most people live in scarcity. They don't understand. They're like, oh, that's a small number. I go, no, you don't live in abundance. You live in scarcity. So 1 out of 1,000, if there's 8 billion humans, 1 out of 1,000 is 8 million. So there's 8 million. And then visionaries are usually, but not always, aliens within their own family, community, and verticals. The only people that understand us are visionaries, and humans and business owners, what's the word you use? Ostracized. They just don't understand. So they create a negative because they don't understand. And so they'll like ADD is not a disorder. It's a sign of genius. So and I don't have ADD, but 90% of the people I talk to do have it, at least 90%. So they're ostracized by them being labeled with a disorder. It's not a disorder. It's just humans don't understand it. Okay. So there are four things that separate the visionaries from everyone else. One, bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy. Two, depression. Three, highest level of anxiety that you can imagine. Four, likely and or possible traumatic experiences as a child or young adult. So for humans, business owners, consultants, those are excuses. For visionary, figure it out. That's the fuel. And I guess I've been an entrepreneur technically for well, since April of 2017, however long that is. And when I first started first company with zero business background, I was still talking to small business owners or employees or consultants. And most of them were one or two, maybe three of those four things. Definitely none were all four, but there were some that were actually zero of those four things. Now, I think in the last, well, since COVID, I think I've talked to three or four people that are less than three of those four things. Basically, everyone I talk to now, not the silver spoons, because that's a different conversation, but the non-silver spoons, they're almost always three of those four things. And then quote unquote, the really successful ones are almost always all four. Almost always.
I I love that. I was smiling because I definitely I don't want to toot my own horn, but all four of those things are pretty prevalent in my life.
Right.
However,
Okay.
I don't consider myself a
You're
visionary
still in the
yet.
military. That's why.
Yeah, and I entrepreneurship has been calling me for a long time, and I do have a
Yeah.
lot of side projects, and I
Right.
enjoy that. But I do agree with you because the people who are the most successful in business that I know absolutely do exemplify all four of those. I couldn't agree with
Right.
you more. So
Oh yeah. Well, anyone can argue it, but all I do is talk to the world's top visionaries, and they're all three. I mean, so that's what it is. So all this stuff that people talk about, with making a list or had a big exit, all that for a visionary, all that stuff is a shield for the four things. That's all it is. Um, and it's funny because it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but like, people talk about all this stuff and then if they talk about three straight things like that, like, oh, I had an exit or I got a big new house, I got a car, whatever that is. So the pattern I see is if they say three or more of those things in a row, I will always ask, so how's your family? And 95+% of the time, it's one of two things. One, I don't have a family, never did. Two, going through a massive divorce. My spouse doesn't understand me, never see my children. So that's what it's just a shield. And that's fine. But I just want to spend time with my family and connect visionaries to serve humanity. I don't want to destroy my family for this life. In fact, it's the opposite of that. My wife, that's why the third book will be really exciting because my wife is actually, you know, the biggest reason why the second company's taken off. And then it's about her journey, which is really interesting to me.
So that's a really, really good segue into this. And once again, it's so nice to hear somebody be like, hey, my family comes first, then business second. And for
Right.
somebody to hold that, it's incredible. Now, my last
Right. But
question,
think about refreshing and incredible to put your family first. It's really like that's ridiculous. But that's the world because people talk about all the material and they're just
yeah.
shielding. So we're basically living in a world of social media shields. That's what it. So when you really understand that that's what it is, then you can, well, you don't have to, but again, like here's the real answer for me anyway.
No, and once again, I'm on the same page as you. I wish more people were like that, and I think society eventually will turn to be more like that.
I think you're
It's,
right about that.
yeah, I think family does come first, and more people are realizing that, especially after the
Yes,
pandemic and all of that.
I would agree
Now,
with that.
I want to know, this is last question, but how did you get there? Did you start your career always being like, hey, my family comes first, or what specifically led you down this road of being like,
Ah,
I only want to work with visionaries and my family comes first? How did you get
okay.
there?
Okay. Well, that's not a 5-minute answer, but I'll do it. But so again, my whole brain turns everything into patterns. That's just what it does. So you're either born someone like this or you're not. I strongly believe that. I think most people would choose this life, but they make excuses. And I don't understand excuses. That's what separates it. And then again, thank you for serving our country. My father was 61 when I was born, 61. He was a World War II hero. He was born in 1916, so he was World War II hero in Army on European front, shot down multiple times in combat, many times without a parachute, and got back into another plane. So that's my litmus test. You're either someone who can do that or you're not. And I just don't understand people that can't do that. I'm guessing you can't understand that either because if you do that, you die or someone on your team dies and your unit dies. And that's not, I mean, I don't understand excuses. So just so to land the plane, pun not intended. So my dad was 61 when I was born. He survived Spanish flu, Depression, World War I, World War II. He became attorney in Nazi war crime Nuremberg trials. His best friend was killed in a famous mafia hit. Um, and then he was hit by a drunk driver in his 50s. The drunk driver was killed. My dad broke every bone in his body and survived. And then he woke up, and my mom was his nurse. So he thought he was dead, and my mom was an angel, but it was my mom, and she was 27 when I was born. 34-year difference. And then all I do is talk to people, top visionaries, endless hustle, no excuses. My mom has the most hustle of anyone I've ever met. So I'm the combination of that. And then I got my dad after all of that he had survived and then got all this wisdom and love. He died when I was 13, but every day that he was alive, he would say the cream rises to the top. The cream rises to the top. So that's a visionary. They'll just do whatever it takes to rise to the top. So genetically, it's in me. Wisdom as a child. My mom's still alive, so she's like a connection bridge between my dad, who's no longer alive, but she obviously knows more about him than I did because he died when I was young. And then And then our children are little versions of my dad. They're bigger visionaries than I am. For sure, pure no excuses. So you're either born like that or you're not. But if you are born like that, you can work on your mindset every single day. So all I work on besides hanging out with my family is building an unbreakable, bulletproof, impenetrable mindset of hanging out with visionaries who live in abundance and who look at things as investments, not costs. So if anyone asks, what do you cost or charge? They're not a visionary because they're living in scarcity by their own limits, their own preventers. And then the fake visionaries think they're visionaries. They think they live in abundance, but they still look at things as costs or what do you charge? And you can't be, they're their own limiters. So just talk to people that live in investment abundance visionary world, which is a lot of fun.
So it's mostly history that's really brought you to where you are. And again, incredible stories from your father and from your current family. But I'll parlay with another question while we have about 60 seconds is what's
Mm.
next for you? How can
Oh,
we help? How can this podcast help? And what's next for you?
well, thank you. All I do is hang out with my family and connect visionaries to serve humanity. So I don't live in like the 5 to 10 year space. I was talking to my 9 year old. We have 60, well, probably 40 seconds now. So I was talking to my 9 year old when he was 8. He's a little version of Earl Nightingale for those who know who he is. So Chase, he considers life one long great day. Yesterday's before you're born, tomorrow's after you die, and then there are only two ways to have a great day, great life. So one is do what you like to do and what you're good at, and then two, create more living things. So that I just connect visionaries to serve humanity, and whatever happens from that will be fun because I do what I like to do, what I'm good at.
So again, great answers. I'm just taking notes so that I can put this in the description. How can people reach you or connect with you? And what can they connect with you about? Obviously, being visionary, serving humanity, but what's the best way for people to sort of connect with you from here?
The main site is brepicnetwork.org, BREPIC network.org.
Cool. Yeah, we'll send people over there if you want to and give me your information on how to reach you or ways to contact you that you prefer. I'll put that in the
Oh,
podcast
that's the
description.
best way. Yeah, that's the best way.
That's the
The-
best way. So we'll put the link in the podcast description. Do you have anything else for me, Justin?
Well, if you take your Colby, Kolbe, Colby.com, A index, it measures how your brain takes action. Send me your score. The overwhelming majority of visionaries are high quick start, little to no follow through. So that's ADD, diagnosed or undiagnosed. And I am high quick start and high follow through. The military, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who have been or are in military, and the military teaches you high fact finder, high quick start, high follow through, and high implementer. But naturally, folks aren't like that. So if you take a send your
Naturally.
score, yeah,
Yeah, definitely in my neck of the woods. I feel like I work with a lot of extreme go-getters and
yeah,
especially people of their word, which is probably my number one thing. It's like when you say you're going to do something, you follow through.
100%.
And
Right.
I really lose a lot of respect for people that say they're going to do something and then go back on their word. So,
Well, they're not, they don't get it. If they
right.
don't do it or they don't have, so most visionaries will have a team of humans that will make sure they follow up for them.
Right, right. I think word is word and follow through are the two most important things for almost any human being. And I think with that comes all of the other things. I don't think you can have all of the other things unless you have that sort of extreme accountability and follow through. So
100%.
I'm glad that we connected 2 months ago, and I'm glad that we both followed through on this podcast. And again, I'd love to have you on in the future. I think you have a great knack for again, working with visionaries and serving humanity. And I would love to learn more about that. So please stay in touch. I will send you the podcast clip once it goes live. It should be later today.
Oh,
And
great. That
if
quick.
you
Wow. Okay.
yeah, it's very minimal, right? I just upload it to Buzzsprout and YouTube so you can parlay it into different clips, share it on your LinkedIn if you want. And if you have anybody else that would be a great guest for that, please send them my way. I love to have visionaries on. Again, it's not me promoting my message, but understanding who
I get
people
it.
are and where they come from, and then sharing their message to connect with others. So,
Okay.
uh, but that's all I got for you. And that's the end of Three Questions Podcast, episode number 57. And I really appreciate you a whole lot, Justin. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
All right.